everyone, and welcome to For the Fans, where tonight we are very excited to talk about the latest episode of Survivor 47 on a very sad evening where we just watched an awful double eviction episode of Big Brother. We're going to focus on something better when we talk about Survivor because I am in mourning.
I thought you were about to say this was a double eviction on Survivor, and I'm like, what did I miss? I shouldn't be here right now because I'm
excited to talk about Survivor. We're not focus on something positive.
Well, if we want to focus on something positive, let's talk about that double eviction of Big Brother, baby. Let's go. I was very happy. But we're not here to talk about Big Brother. We'll talk about that on Monday with the 5 p.m.ers. Kylie's welcome to come on so she could mourn the double eviction, and me and CJ can celebrate.
All right. But tonight we are joined by Kevin, Robbie, and Rye. Rye, how you doing? Haven't seen you on the podcast in a while.
I've been doing great. Living my best life. Been traveling the world a lot, and now I'm back in DC and nerding about Survivor. So yeah, I'm super excited. This is already my favorite season ever. I have zero bias whatsoever. I just think that Tini happens to be the greatest Survivor player of all time. And totally not because we're friends. Just
clearly objective opinion.
Nothing to do with friendship.
Anybody who disagrees with that must be insane. So.
Yeah, they're not even saying they're just wrong, you know?
Not going to have any bad thoughts about her.
I have some thoughts about Tini. I have some things to say because that was some interesting gameplay early on.
Some things to talk about Tini tonight. Maybe not the best things, but it'll be interesting to get your perspective in particular, Rye, but then everybody's in general about some situations. But Kevin, Rye, this is your first time talking about Survivor this season. What are your thoughts so far overall?
2 seasons. I think 2 times I have to pick a new winner the first time I'm on the show. I think that's 2. I'm 2 for 2. I think so.
TK was your winner?
I think so. You have it written down somewhere. I think I have TK winning the whole thing. I think 2 for 2. First episode that I'm on.
Yeah.
First time I have to pick somebody new. Last season, it was my boy Jelinski. This season, it's my boy TK. 2 for 2. But other than that, I am enjoying the season. I'm enjoying the season immensely. It's a lot of fun. I know that in the past, Kylie, me, you, and Sheldon, when Sheldon was on here, we talked about how you were ready for a new location and ready for all this newness.
Even though it's never bothered me.
Well, then reality really set in for you when you realized it was all a Banu infused rant that you're actually having because the rest of the season ended up being really, really fun. But to catch you, Robbie and Rye up, last season, after Banu hour 5, I think, Banu hour 5, episode 4, hour 5 or so, Kylie and Sheldon just went off about all the things that were wrong with Survivor. But then they like when someone's hungry and they're hangry and they just need to eat a meal. What it was that they just had too much Banu. So the moment they had like a palate cleanser, they're like, we're having fun again. This is not that bad. Look what's going on here. And I say all that because we're back in the same location and I feel like I'm still getting new content that I'm loving. I like the changes. I like this multiple level idol situation. I like the fact that everyone's like a gamer and are trying different things. I like the new Sweat and Savvy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we talked about that a bit last week, and I mean, we could probably go pretty in depth about how some things are starting to feel a little bit predictable, a little bit kind of rehashed. But I don't think it's possible for there to be a bad season of Survivor. So sorry, Ryan, I cut you off there on your thoughts so far this season. But yeah, I mean, could things be better? Yeah, but they could be a hell of a lot worse. So I'm not.
Could be worse.
So the conclusion I've come to now that we have entered this new era of Survivor is this is almost like different version of the show I like, kind of like a spinoff. So is it going to be as good as pre-40? In my opinion, not yet. It hasn't proven that it can be. It's just something else, and I'm going to look at it as a separate entity of the show I used to love. And it's still fun. It's still Survivor-esque, but it doesn't hit like it used to.
All right, well, let's let next season's host, who actually likes the show, Rye, get a word in here.
So my hot take is I agree with Kylie that it doesn't hit like it used to.
Oh,
I think
shit.
it hits better.
It hits better.
Oh,
It is better.
Okay.
I am a new gen elitist. It's my favorite segment of Survivor seasons ever. And does it get a little too twisty sometimes? Sure. But I think where it really flourishes is the casting. We're getting a whole new set of players with whole new takes on the game, whole new strategies. And we're seeing like the same game and the same twists be completely blown up in completely different directions, different stories, different backgrounds, different emotions coming together. And I think it creates a better story. I'm loving every single second of the new era. And again, no bias, but 47 might be the greatest season ever.
Well, for me, no bias actually, but I think each season builds on the one previously, and just like how hockey's changed, how basketball's changed, football's changed, they just build on the one before it. And so I'm having a great time, especially with people changing what they do. Like in this episode, we get Andy say, you know what, I'm not going to take the beware advantage because I'm going to leave it to when I need it, and then we see what happens. But I like the new concepts because that's how you get better and better each time. Getting better and better every day.
And especially on this season, you have a bunch of people who have like been super fans for their like entire life, like Andy. But then you have other people who are like recent COVID converts who are coming in with a fresh perspective on the game.
Converts. You literally got Rome out there that's been a fan for like 2.5 months.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into this particular episode. There's a lot to talk about. So let's start it off with blunders. Blunders everywhere. We see where they kind of pick up from the premiere episode where we got to wrap up these idol searches. We saw where Gabe did a little bit in the first episode, got his three tribal idol, but it was left hanging with Rome, and then we didn't see anything happening on the yellow tribe. So let's talk about Rome. Rye, I think this would be a great opportunity for you to jump in here and tell us what you were thinking when you see Rome approach your friend Teeny with, hey, you're someone I trust, and I think I want to share this information with you.
So my favorite part of this is like I was right next to Teeny cheering the entire time. So I got to see Teeny's face. It was like, oh yes, Teeny, you're doing so great. He's telling you about this idol. But then Teeny was not happy. Teeny was like covering her face. She was like, I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, wait, some guy is telling you his biggest secret. Why are you embarrassed about it? And then we get the reveal, and I'm dying laughing the entire time because this is one of the biggest blunders. Teeny's strength is her social game, getting people to trust her. So she got that. She got Rum to trust her, tell her about the idol. And then like 5 seconds later, she's digging in it with Keyshawn. And then guess who comes walking up? Rome. And just seeing her reaction play 2 times first live on the show and live in real life, priceless. I would watch it again over and over again.
We talked about last week that, Rome was definitely in our comments before he went out to play. And I believe this person that said that they were Rome said that it was a good idea to share the information with a friend. And I will remain adamant to not do that.
I definitely, as you know, disagree with you. I think sharing the information is great if the person's actually an ally. The hard part about what happened here is that, as we talked about on the preview, on the cast preview, I was heading down to Phoenix to go watch a premiere party, right? And I actually saw Rome there. And when I saw Rome, I said, Rome, you looking for this idol? Great. You looking for the idol while everybody's looking for you? Not so great. Mm-hmm. So I think sharing the info with a friend fantastic move. We see on the Yellow Tribe a little bit. We're going to talk about deeper. We see Sam share it with his closest ally, right? And that was a good move for Sam. And here, Rome ain't got no allies. Rome think Rome got allies, but Rome ain't got no allies right now. So when Rome decides that to share with Teeny, we see Teeny immediately share with her closest ally, John.
Well, that's part of the recipe, right, Kevin? I mean, sharing information with a close ally can be the right move. I don't agree that it's always the right play. You get an idol, you got to share it with your ally. Right. I mean, I think having power in your back pocket,
never the right play,
right? But when you want to share it with an ally, the first part of that recipe is having that ally, right? You got to make that friend first, and you also don't need to share the information immediately. Now, sometimes you do. Okay, it's a case-by-case basis type deal, depending on the twist, and whatever. You see in Sam's case, polar opposites, right? Sam nails it when he says, listen, I tell one person, I know she's going to go tell everybody else, so I'm going to go tell them. And then you watch the cut where you're like, yeah, everybody is finding out, but they're also finding out from him, so they still trust him.
We see Gabe uses the idol that he has to engineer trust between Caroline literally says, I don't know about working with Gabe. Then Gabe showed me the idol, and I realized that's a lot of trust. So then I said, all right, Gabe, I'm on board. Like those are the times to do it, is when you're like trying to use it to garner when you need it as a little bit to put over. It's good to use. Now, in this situation, our boy Rome was a little overzealous with the Sharon, picked Teeny out as an ally before Teeny knew Teeny was an ally. Teeny already got allies.
Yeah.
She don't need Rome.
Well, it's funny you're actually mentioning this too, because I was thinking of the analogy of when you're trying to start a fire and you need to have that little spark first. You need to have a little coal before you blow on it, right? You got to actually have the spark of something before you blow on it, which is sharing that information, right? He doesn't have the coal yet, and he's just blowing.
Not at all.
He's just blowing, and it's nothing's coming from it, right? And it's actually funny because Rome had an issue starting fire later on too, so it's kind of fitting, I think.
That done in like 6 minutes at the house. That done in like 6 minutes at the house, but don't know.
16 seconds, he says.
16 seconds. That's
my record is 16 seconds. And I'm like, well, if you're just hitting a striker into a dry leaf, you're gonna have some problems. Like I don't know.
Do you know how fast I can start a fire, Robbie?
You have a lighter though, or matches.
In 2 seconds, I turn the knob on the stove, and then it lights, and then we're ready to go, baby.
Yeah.
Guys, 16-second places in fire making challenges. Yeah, but going back to the idols, when we're looking at the new era Survivor, idols are different. Pre-40s, like you walk past a tree and bam, you have it. You can play it for yourself. You stick in your pocket. This one, they're like
Kylie's there. And Kylie's era. Kylie's favorite era. You find it, put it in your pocket, keep it pushing.
Yeah, but you can't do that in the new era. They have all these tasks that you have to do. They have to like go digging for keys and knobs, untying knots.
You gotta
these things.
Hang from a mountain. You gotta hang from a mountain with one hand at 12:07 p.m. And then the light has to hit the window.
Yeah.
So when we're breaking down the new era, I think only 2 times have people been able to keep the idol to themselves or get it like without people knowing. It's like Danny, Caroline, and I think that's it. Everyone else had needed help to get their idol.
In addition to what Rye's saying, everyone is now looking for idols in the new era. Everyone knows that people are looking for idols in the new era. So you're not going to really be able to get by without someone noticing you, because everyone's doing the same thing. And like Ryan said, there's 17 tasks that has to be done, including following the sun as it hits the eye at the right moment.
Yeah.
And it's going to shine on it. Legitimately, no bullshit. We saw Rome pouring water on logs to reveal a message. Like,
and hanging upside down in a well.
Right.
Yeah.
So not telling no one is not really an option anymore, because you might need help.
So we've seen other blunders in the episode. And before we move on, I do want to mention we see two here, obviously, right? We have the blunder of Rome sharing the information, and then we have the equally debatably worse blunder of in the middle of
I wanted to talk about more.
In the middle of the day, having Teeny,
share the information with
Sean, bright daylight, no where people are. Listen, obviously didn't do it on purpose. Okay, nobody does it on purpose.
Obviously not.
Blunder is a blunder, but we see Rome make up for it a little bit with his decision that he makes. I think that was the only right decision when it came to staying with the one tribal idol and not giving anybody any more power.
Right. I mean, if I am a member of the Lavo tribe and I find out that Rome has found the Beware advantage and he has sacrificed his one tribal idol to go for the 3, I am going to sabotage him like nobody's business. So he had to
This is what I'm saying.
He had to snatch up that idol because
I think Rome, go ahead.
I thought it was a fantastic recovery by both of them because Teeny showing Keyshawn blunder. But then Rome walks right up, marches right to the box and says, "See, you guys are in my stuff." And Teeny's like, no. We're doing an alliance thing. I meant to mention it to you. I forgot. Me, you, Keyshawn. That's the 3, and we're going to bring in a 4th. It's us. You see?
No, I mean, I think Teeny handled it as well as she could have. I would have died.
I think you got to give more of that credit to Rome.
Dug up the damn box and buried me in its place.
I think
that is how I would have felt in that moment. I would have died.
Listen, Teeny has to lie and apologize at that point, which is what Teeny did. That's the only. Even if you don't know what to do, you're gonna lie and apologize, or just at least lie. Like, you can't run away, and then just run, right? Words have to come out of your mouth. Right? Words have to come out of your mouth and you're not going to say the truth. So Teeny had to lie. But the way Rome handled it, now whether he accepted it for real and forgave, or if he just pretended, Teeny believes he accepted it at this point anyway. And Rome handled it like a champ. How many other castaways in the past, if they were caught somehow, or caught who they thought was their ally, stabbing them in the back, would have lost their shit, got paranoid. Rome basically avoided the biggest blunder of the episode by not overreacting here and blowing up his game. And I think he needs a lot of credit for that because I think I probably would have panicked a little more if I couldn't trust my ally and they were sharing.
I would have probably not handled either situation better than they both did.
See, I love how Rome was basically entered an improv class and went yes and because Teeny says, "We're bringing in Keyshawn." Rome says, "Oh, okay, that sounds great. I like that idea. Let's read this together. Oh, this is for 1 or for 3. I think we're all good with me taking it for 1. I think we're all good with that. Sounds good. All right, let's move along. I found it, and I'm safe next time we go to tribal. So
find somebody else."
We got to give props to Rome because he had the hardest path to getting the idol out of the people who have gotten it so far. And I say with my inside scoop being after talking to Teeny and Soul, finding out that the Lavo camp is the smallest camp. They have one path to the water well. That's it. So he can't search without people physically walking by. And he already was caught searching by Asia, who made a comment on it. So he knows that people know he's searching. So better to bring people in. He brings in Teeny, backfires completely. And now he needs to recover off of that. So he has the hardest path socially finding the idol out of anybody, just geographically speaking. And then getting stabbed in the back to play off of that is even more impressive. So you got to give a lot of props to Rome in this.
Yeah. To close this up, Teeny did have a tweet last night where she said that this moment felt worse than if you screenshot text with someone and then you send the screenshot to the person that you were trying to talk shit about, to that person. And so I think we have all done something like that where you've been like, oh my gosh, I have effed up so badly. And so, good for her for, handling it the way she did because, what a moment. All right. On the other side, though, we need to talk about baby Andy. And look, y'all, let's just talk about him as a whole in this episode. Another moment that would make me die is for them to be clapping for me, opening the coconuts, I'd be like, no, motherfuckers, I don't want you to clap now. I wanted you to clap originally, and I wanted you to do it out of the goodness of your heart. And now, no. But seriously, that moment when they are clapping for him, I'm like, they are, I mean, it's almost, I almost feel a little bad for Andy, and I want
I
to
feel
die.
bad for Andy.
I want to die a little bit for him. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
like,
A lot
because
of it.
it is almost, it seems a little mean-spirited.
It's almost patronizing, but at
Yeah.
the same
No, not
time,
almost. It is extremely patronizing. Call it
well,
what
the
it
reason I
is.
say almost is because when this is something that he brought up on the mat, right? He brought this up. That's why I say almost patronizing, because he's mentioned how he feels like he's not being accepted and being brought in, and they're like, and he brings up this example specifically. So when they're doing it, they might have done it with everybody else also. So I'd say almost patronizing. We only see obviously the Andy part, but he said that was a cue that he wasn't being accepted. So they're doing it. He feels way more accepted now, but it was like performative.
Yeah, and it also bothers me too when now we don't know what everybody else was doing before or after. I always throw a caveat out there, sure, but they were all sitting around. I'd be more pissed that I'm cutting coconuts and working, and I got 4 people sitting on a stump going, "Yeah, great job working. Keep doing that manual labor while we sit and socialize." Right? Like I think that would drive me nuts more than anything, but I think Andy was eating it up. Like, unless it was just an editing trick and the smiles were from some other conversation or whatever, which they could easily do. They just seem to
this
keep
might
going.
be the acceptance he was looking for.
Now, the one thing that I thought he would do is share the coconut, but after all that, he cracks it open and just starts immediately chugging out of the coconut. And I'm like,
Well, what I
do they
was
all just
thinking,
pass it
Robbie,
around, or do they
I
like
think
pour it in their bottles?
they had all probably done it, and they were done, and he was finishing his.
Yeah.
And that was his.
I think the easiest
theirs.
way to get out of this whole thing is to have somebody sit with them and say, listen, man, I know how you feel. I'm happy you said how you feel, because speaking and communicating is the best way out of whatever place you're in. And that's extremely valuable. But just so you know where we're coming from, there was the oldest guy on the tribe, clearly the oldest guy in the tribe, the least physically fit gentleman on the tribe, a podcaster, speechwriter, was using a machete in the woods to cut a coconut. We cheered for him because it was so out of character. You're a young, fit guy, or a younger, more fit guy. You fit in here. You seem like a natural cutting coconuts. So like, that's why we weren't looking at it as a huge achievement. And maybe that's on us. Like, at least explain, like, it wasn't that we don't care about you. It's that it was such an, like, we were just basically giving the older guy who's a nerd, like, I am a nerd myself. I feel like it's okay to say that, but it's like, we're giving props to this guy who's out of character right now. And that's all the cheering was. It wasn't a pro him and like, at least explain where you're coming from, but just to sit there and then patronize and cheer the next day, to be like, oh wait, you're opening coconuts and you're going to freak out if we don't cheer for you. So yay. I don't know. It's just a weird way to handle it. It didn't sit right. So it felt staged almost. Like, it didn't feel, the show's not staged. Like, it's all legit. It felt performative.
It was very performative. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they were laughing at him while they were cheering for him, like, just ick.
Yeah. And honestly, there was a couple of moments like that for me a little bit where, I mean, obviously we're on here and we are critiquing people, but I do hope that we don't cross the line, like where we're trying to focus on the game, where we're providing critiques. Like, I don't want to like talk shit about the people. And I don't know, there was a couple moments that was the biggest one, but then even like whenever Rome is going on all of his spiel about all the things that he can do, and he's like, oh, I could have got drafted, and H is like, well, why didn't you? Why didn't you?
Because I quit.
I was like, this also seems a little mean to me. I don't know, because I think it's whenever you see the two people that are kind of clearly struggling.
Yeah, kicking someone when they're down is never fun to watch. That's why underdog movies and underdog sports are That's why we cheer for the underdog, right? That's
yeah. And so, I mean, I think I feel for Rome a little bit in this moment, because then I also felt a little bit like the show was dunking on him too, not to, be punny there with basketball.
He wasn't dunking on nobody. But
no, well, let me finish. Because when they're sitting out on the beach and he's like, "This is just like Phoenix," and
Phoenix Sunset.
I was like, probably not quite just like Phoenix when you're sitting on the beach in Fiji. And so I felt like the show was shitting on him a little bit too. I don't know. Just my opinions.
I think they weren't, not with the Phoenix line, but I think they were with him saying all the things he can do. He said, I could have been a rapper, and then he does one bar and says, I forgot the rest of my head. Like, I think they were dunking on him for all those things, but this is the energy I was talking about, though, right? This is what I talked about in our cast preview. I said he's going to have all this like chaotic energy that's not going to sit well with people. And we're watching him have the chaotic energy that's not sitting well with people.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like, I feel like when you had mentioned Andy, I feel like Andy and Rome situations are vastly different, obviously. But one of the big things is that, like, Andy's situation is almost as if the people got yelled at by the king and was told to dance. So now they're dancing because they have to, but they necessarily didn't plan on doing this. Whereas in Rome's situation, they're just literally just busting his chops about all the things he said he can do, because they're like, this dude's full of it.
Yeah. It's also hard when you're like starving on an island for a couple of days and you're stuck with these same 5 people, that it's one thing to be like really nice to them in the morning, but then when it continues for like 8 hours through the day and you're still like, yay, going great, it becomes harder to fake and you become tired a lot quicker. So it's hard to keep up like the playing nice the entire time in these intense situations.
Well, and you have to start feeling it. Right now I'm sitting in front of a camera with a mic in front of me, and I know I'm being recorded, right? I'm broadcast live, basically, or literally. So when you're on the island, you basically, you probably feel like you're being broadcast live, even though you're not. Like, it's recorded, it's going to be edited or whatever. But all of those moments, you have the camera looking at you, you have the mic on you, you got production team running around you as if something's happening 24/7, and like, that alone would weigh on you, always trying to be on, right? And having to also put up with somebody else who's also making you feel like you always have to deal with like that. Yeah, I think that would weigh on you. Yeah.
All right, so back to the Beware Advantage on the Yellow Tribe. I still don't know the tribe name, y'all. That's okay. We'll get there. Yeah, they gotta.
You gotta know the Yellow Tribe name.
Yeah, I gotta know it. Okay. So we see where Sam has been put on babysitting duty on Andy while the women go out to search for the Beware Advantage. They don't do a very good job of finding it, and Sam doesn't do a very good job of babysitting Andy. And
this babysitting situation was the funniest, because he says, I'm gonna sit right there. I'm gonna go use the restroom. Walked out of the restroom. Where'd the kid go?
The babysitter that turns around and the house is on fire. So great, because that's literally what happened. And so Andy sneaks off. He does quickly find the Beware Advantage. Like, it was drawing him in like a magnet, and he finds it and he decides, let me think on it for a minute, which I think in Andy's situation, that is probably a little bit smart. Like, let me not be rash. Let me sit on this for a second and let me come back, because
shocking.
He might have known I only have a few minutes. So let me go back and let me think about how I want to handle this. What do y'all think about his decision to leave the Beware Advantage and then come back for it later?
Novel. It's a new idea, one we have not seen before. I like the concept, because if you go back and it's gone, someone has it. Now, in this situation, it was a little bit unfortunate that everyone knows who has it except for you. But Usually, I think especially if you're concerned about losing your vote, it's a good idea because when you need it, you can go get it, and you can go all out because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think it's a novel idea, and I think Andy played it really well once he found out that somebody else had it. But when you're so far on the bottom and it's so obvious, you got to take what you can get. You got to grab that and use it to your leverage. Like you could use, hey, I have it as a way to build trust, not necessarily, oh, I'm going to walk and watch you find it. Because like we already saw Sam find it and then Annika be there and then be like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about Annika knowing I have this. So having someone with you, like if he's babysitting someone else finding it, that's not as good as for his game as saying, hey, I have it. Let's build trust. Let's work together. Because then you could do what Rome did and say, hey, I have the idol. Don't vote for me.
It also felt like an experienced play, like a second timer looking at it, because you know now that you can't do the beware advantage alone. Like sure you can. You can. I mean, miracles happen, okay? But like we said earlier, it's extremely difficult to do the beware advantage tasks alone. So why even open it if you're not confident you're going to have somebody able to help you? And I felt like he was going to go back, reassess his relationship with Sam, and if he felt like it was comfortable and he felt like he could share it, be like, guess what we found? I got to show you something. Will you help me do this? And if Sam feels, like he's trusting, go do it as a team. But why pigeonhole yourself, if you don't have that help and now you're even more screwed than you already were? But I have a question. This is a rules question. Maybe you guys can clarify for me. If you don't have your vote, can you use your shot in the dark?
No.
So maybe that's another part of it, right? So if he's feeling like he's on the bottom and he's screwed and he doesn't have help, he needs his vote to be able to do that roll the dice. Do you know what I mean? And maybe that's another reason why he wasn't willing to risk issues.
We see Andy put it back and then he, goes back. It does not seem like that much longer, time-wise. And the beware advantage is gone. We obviously know that Sam has found it. He has shared it with all of the women. He's like taking them out on their individual dates, searching for the idol. And he finds it with Sierra, and he tells us, Sierra is my closest ally. She's the one that I really wanted to share this with, but circumstances, I had to share it with the other two women. And he throws out this idea of like, would it be crazy if I use this on Andy? And I'm like, look at this. Andy has kind of like gone into this like ass backwards, but here he is. Like he may have kept his vote, and then maybe he did build enough of a bond with Sam by saying, hey, I had found it, but it's out there somewhere else, that Sam is like, you know what, maybe I can, kind of like a Caleb and Emily situation. Like I can scoop this fella up and we can work something out here. And if he ends up having the idol played for him, then it turns out to be a really great decision. And it turns out to be a great thing that he's not the one that had to do all the tasks.
Yeah. And that's something that worked out great for Caleb in his season. Emily, rough first episode, then found somebody to trust who pulled him in. In. This could be the same thing with Andy. This could be his way into the game. And the way he's handling, hey, I found it, but then somebody else had it. Let me tell somebody I trust to build that relationship with it. He's doing all the necessary steps from this point to earn his way back into the tribe dynamics.
Yeah. And friend of the podcast, Karen, brought up an interesting question. Do y'all think we could see a trajectory for our guy Andy here like Gabler?
No.
Do you think that he can integrate himself enough that he ends up becoming the winner of this season?
No. Because even
Gabler was as unstable as Andy.
In addition, he's ingratiated himself to Sam, and in turn, Sam said to what's Sam's closest ally's name?
Sierra.
He says to Sierra, what if I like use this on Andy? And Sierra's like, don't love that. But you do you, and if you do you, I go with you, but I don't love that. And he might have ingratiated himself to Sam, but like no one else was trying to rock with Andy. I mean, he blew up on the mat in front of everybody. If in terms of a swap or a merge, I'm not trying to work with that dude either. So you can throw me under the bus?
Yeah.
Get out of here, Angela. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and who do you think? He ingratiated himself, sure, with Sam. Andy did, but who do you think Sam's willing to sacrifice over Andy? I think the only answer to that is Annika.
Annika.
Sure, like so, but that's one. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think he's.
I'm not saying like,
willing to do
but
both.
That's my point, right? Like yeah, he's a little bit closer, but only over the biggest threat on the tribe, right? Like it's not like Sam's willing to cut, Sierra and Rachel and everybody else.
I think he would be willing to cut Annika and Rachel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll
find out.
Robbie, we see him tell Rachel only because he's sure Annika's going to tell Rachel. He wouldn't do it because he wanted to.
Yeah. But that's also, but that's his social game, right? I mean, that's you can't blame him for that. Yeah,
correct. No one's not blaming him at all. What I'm saying is that I think he goes Sierra, Andy, Rachel, Annika for him,
and he trusts Andy so much that he doesn't tell him. Did he end up telling him by the end of the episode? I didn't see that.
No.
He didn't tell Andy, but he only told Rachel and Annika because Annika saw him do it, and Annika immediately ran to Rachel, so he knew that Annika was going to tell Rachel, so
but that's genius gameplay, right? I mean,
brilliant.
But we're saying like, oh, it's obvious that you would do that, but we see all the time people don't tell the right people, and they screw it up, right? So
he played it out exactly.
In my opinion, Sam is the star of the episode because everything he does turns to gold. Here, he's got the Midas touch, basically, of everything he wants is coming to fruition. The guy that everyone hates loves him. Everyone else loves him. The people who don't trust him know the information, but they don't have any power over him. It's fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I think Andy's a little better off, but I don't think he's safe by any means.
All right.
Another thing about Andy in the situation over here that's in Sam's favor is he doesn't necessarily have to tell Andy because Andy comes up to him and says, "Hey, where the girls have it." And then all Sam has to do is go, "Wow, really? That's crazy. I trust you so much more. We need to get one of them out." So it enables him to not only get one of them out, but maybe keep that secret a bit more.
But he needs to, now he has to go to the grave with that because you can't come back to a guy like Andy, based on all the information I know about Andy from one episode before this. You can't go back to a guy like Andy later on. Actually, I've had it this whole time. And who knows how he's going to respond? Do you know what I mean?
You have to know when you find it. You can vote out Annika. Say, hey, I guess Annika had it because I just found it in the woods again.
But this is what I mean. He has to just hold that lie forever now. And if one of the women go to Andy and say Sam has it, let's say Andy pretends to find it or whatever, and she won't, but some ridiculous thing happens. Well, somebody can just spill it to Andy that Sam has it. Sam has to bullface lie to Andy nonstop. He can't.
Honestly, playing the idol for Andy would be a terrible mistake. He needs to just write Andy off, and he needs to just, and it's only good for one tribal. So I mean,
is it a terrible mistake?
Well, I mean, now that I said that, with it being only one, he can be like, "Hey, look, I found it. The women were with me. They didn't want me to tell you, but I wanted to save you." So
I couldn't trust you enough to tell you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's one. Another thing you could do is you could just do the Natalie Anderson, tell Andy we're voting Annika, then go up there and say, Did you do the thing I told you to do? Yeah. Playing this on Andy.
Yeah.
Listen, we can split hairs all day, but if my ally that I think has my back lies to me that bad, that's going to impact me. I understand
on
the
day
gameplay,
4, Robbie. After you freaked out on day 3,
putting on the show that Sam did. No, I'm not. I'm just saying, maybe not me in day 3. I also wouldn't have freaked out like Sam or like Andy.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
But
Andy freaks out day 3. Andy freaks out day 3. Sam finds it day 4. Doesn't tell him the truth, and then when I play it, let's say I play it at the day 9, I guess, or day 8 in the situation. I pull him to the side and saved his life with it, or I hand it to him and tell him, play this on yourself. This is an idol. I found it. Play this on yourself. When we get back to camp, he's gonna say, so you found the beware advantage? bro, you had just freaked out the day before. I couldn't tell you.
Or the day after, or the like,
because there's different types of trust. You can trust somebody to vote with you, but that doesn't mean you can trust them to not blow up your spot.
Correct.
Different types.
Andy already blew up John's spot. Like that already happened. So like, if you're not even a rational person, if you're any person that will listen to another person, you're like, I did just do that like the other day. Like
listen,
that did.
they didn't cheer for him opening a coconut, and it caused a meltdown.
Right, correct.
So lying to him to his face repeatedly days, there's no way you can say that wouldn't have some negative impact on him.
I also couldn't think. I wasn't sure I could trust you, but that just showed you the ultimate trust by using this on you.
We'll see how it works out. It's going to be interesting because
we can just agree that you're wrong and move on.
Yeah, there's many ways. I tend to side a little with Robbie on this, that I don't feel like it can go well working with Andy. So I'm going to err on it's always a bad idea to do something that benefits Andy, because it's probably going to bite you in the ass.
Damn, Kylie.
We'll see what happens. All right. So next thing to talk about, Wounded Birds. Does this equal the new era Dumbass Girl Alliance? So we see Gabe preseason. He wants to be on the Mount Rushmore of the new era. He wants to play a game similar to a Russell Hantz type of situation, where he is extremely loyal to his allies and he is willing to ride it out with them, but he wants to do some villainous things. And so we see him in episode 1, where he tells us he really wants to work with Sue. He trusts her. He tells her about his idol. But he's like, you know what? I need another one. And I'm going to pull in Caroline. And guess what? I'm going to drag these 2 women to the end with me, and I am going to wipe the floor with them. And I was like, holy shit. He's literally playing like Russell. I mean, is this some foreshadowing of what is going to happen, where Gabe
doesn't make it that far? This is not Samoa. This where is not.
Gabe gets to the end with his 2 dumbass girls, aka Wounded Birds, and guess what? They weren't so wounded. They got their own wings, literally, with Sue.
Did you write? I feel like you wrote that down during the episode. Like, this is a perfect Wings reference. Airplanes, pilot,
straight off the dome.
This Wounded Birds Alliance situation, it may be Russell-esque, but there's a reason Russell has not done well in any outside of the 2 times he played, and once you found out what Russell was doing, right after the first season airs, second season he plays right back to back. So these Sue and, like you said, Sue and Caroline can seem to fend for themselves. They are not the quote unquote wounded birds that he thinks they are. So if you try to play Russell's game, it's not going to work.
Agreed.
Oh no, Rye, you're gone.
You're mute. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Sorry. I also think that although Gabe idolizes Russell Hantz, they're very different people. Like, he can try to play like a cold, heartless game, but that's not him. He's a goofy goober. So like, I think he's just as much a wounded bird. And he's found his flock. Like, he's found the dorks. He's found the misfits. He's not like some sort of like big maniacal mastermind or anything like that. He's just found his nerd alliance, and they're going to powwow through it. I don't really feel like I'm fitting in with these like jockey bro-y guys. So I found a different alliance. He could try to he loves the theatrics of saying wounded birds, making dreams disappear. But at the end of the day, I think he's playing a loyal game.
I mean, I think Russell carried a lot more influence, positive or negative, on his tribe, and carried a lot more target on his back, and also just more leverage in every way, socially, in challenges. If you remember back then, he was a beast in challenges as well. Like, there was a lot of power that Russell had, a lot of influence. And I feel like Gabe is more capitalizing on openings, whereas Russell made openings. If TK wasn't doing what TK was doing, I don't think Gabe would have had an opportunity to do what Gabe did. Right? Tiana's not going to come over as easily if she's not offended. if Sue's name's not getting thrown under the bus, and even the way TK did that, which we're talking about blunders, I think one of the biggest blunders is when you have a trio alliance, you're sitting in the water, as TK is, discussing who you're going to vote out as 3 of 6. A fourth walks up and you say, yeah, we have decided, the 3 of us, that we're going to go Sue. Are you good with that? There's a more, I don't know, organic way other than saying, hey, I'm the king of this trio. You're the 4th. Cool. Like you're not going to feel like you were part of that group coming together organically.
Brother, where you have a group that's, oh, hey, Kevin, Robbie, like, what do y'all think about we pull Ryan to the alliance with us? And instead of like having an organic conversation between me and Rye, where I'm like, hey, Rye, how do you feel about Robbie and Kevin? Like, would you want to work with them? And Rye doesn't know that I've already worked something out with Robbie and Kevin. But as opposed to if the 3 of us go and approach Rye, hey, would you like to join our alliance? Well, he automatically knows that he's at the bottom of this. So why do you want to join at the bottom?
There's a very textbook play when you're in a situation like this. The 4th person walks up. The first thing you talk about is something completely unrelated to tribal council, unrelated to votes. You just talk about the water, the sand, the food, whatever it is. We're talking careers for 30 seconds to pretend like that's what he's walking into. And then you bring up hey, looking into tonight, how are you guys feeling about, I guess, the 2 people that aren't here right now? Has anybody had any good conversations, or is anything like, just organically get it back to the vote conversation? But the first sentence out of his mouth is, hey, we're voting Sue. You good with that? You're our 4th. Like you just walked into an existing trio, right? Like that's right. So when you have someone giving you openings like that, showing you the information openly, like TK's doing, Gabe is just capitalized. Not Gabe. I guess Gabe. I guess Gabe Gabler. Yeah. I was thinking Gabler when I said Gabe. Gabe is just capitalizing on openings. He's not creating them, and I think that's the difference between Russell. But yeah, I think it's fun to reference them and compare.
I kind of disagree with that in the sense where Gabe is finding himself in 2 different alliances. He's the one who's going up to Sue and saying, hey, I have this idol. Let's do it. He's creating that bond with Caroline, who maybe they weren't close, but I'm like, hey, I got this idol. He's creating that alliance. He is making that move. But he also put himself in the middle situation where it's like, hey, maybe if Caroline and Sue aren't working out, I'm already in another alliance with an idol. I think he's doing a lot already. So it's hard to say that he's not really making any openings for himself.
I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Yes, you got to give him credit for making the alliance with Sue. That happened day 1, or it looked like day 1, episode 1 at least. It happened pretty quick. And bringing Caroline in by sharing information, definitely a smart idea. Walking into an existing conversation about who the vote's for and having somebody out their own alliance is fortune. Now, if you want to give him credit for putting the work in by walking over and talking, where maybe somebody else like Sue didn't walk over and talk, I respect that. Okay. It takes some form of social courage to walk over to a group of 3 people and just join. But yeah, I wouldn't say that's Russell-esque. I mean, that seems like kind of 101, I guess, but yeah, I'm not saying he's not doing anything. I just have a hard time in 2 episodes saying this person, anybody, is close to being as manipulative.
I don't necessarily think either that he is playing a Russell game, but just drawing the comparison of like preseason, him being like, I want to model my game like a Russell. Yeah. And I want to have this alliance that I, carry with me through the whole game. Because he does call out like Russell is loyal. And I mean, that is true. Russell is loyal to the people that he is loyal to. If you are not one of those people, then God help you.
Yeah.
Okay. But wow, lost my train of thought there. But so I mean, I think Gabe is doing what he set out to do. He's finding his people that he wants to work with, people that he perceives to be weaker than him. And we're gonna see how it works out long term. Gabe said that he wanted to play a game that was a love letter to the fans, and so far I am entertained by Gabe. Like I am not. I'm watching it. I'm enjoying what he's doing.
I am not finding an idol through that too easy. Making a
it's not about no. It's not no. The things I'm not. He's. I don't find him entertaining. The finding an idol, that was fun. Him getting caught by TK, that was funny. Him going to sue, whatever. Him trading it in and finding the one in the water, whatever. Like, there are, like, people I feel more entertaining. Like, I was much more entertained with Tiana's dilemma this week than I was with, like, Gabe going and getting Caroline brought in. Now, it might also have to do with the fact that they didn't show too much, like, overtly positive. Like, he didn't have any confessionals really about the thing. He maybe had you count him. I think he had like 7 confessionals or something like that total, 6 in a 2-hour span and hour-and-a-half span, where they were talking about him doing stuff. It wasn't that many, so like I just wasn't entertained by the guy.
Can I just throw out one more thing before we move on? It is that nobody remembers pre-jury moves.
Right.
There's a lot of weight going into this because 50% of our season is this episode. So it feels important, right? 3 weeks from now, no one's going to give a shit about this vote. Now, TK will, obviously, but I can't help but think, just from a survival aspect, I don't think it was the right play. I think keeping your tribe stronger here and actually not going to tribal, I think that was the right play. I think
we're gonna get into the vote and we're gonna circle back to this because I've got some thoughts. Okay, we're gonna bookmark it and come back. All right. Third thing to talk about.
Rice Gate. I love it.
So we have this immunity challenge. We've seen this part before where they have to get the bag of rice through the little hole. Everybody's got to climb over. We see a little bit of a variation, though, whenever we get to the table maze, where it is a 3-person snake maze where they're having to navigate this ball through. Any thoughts on this little bit of a change in an old classic?
You're gone.
I like that there was 3 people that had to do it. It allowed there to be a tougher social dynamics in terms of having someone be the caller and the other 2 having to actually work with all 3 of them. I like that change.
Yeah, I mean, I think it obviously created some interesting dynamics, and we'll talk about TK's exit interview at the end, where he shines a little bit of light onto this. But what is the most interesting thing that happens is when they stab the bag open, all of that rice is spilling out. Before it even happened, I told my husband, I was like, I would take some of that rice. And we see Rachel start stuffing her pockets full of rice. Did any of y'all have that thought cross through your mind in the moment?
I loved it.
I love it.
I wouldn't have thought about doing it myself, but like when she did it, I was like, more power to her. I like that. I wish that she ended up having a pocket full. So when Jeff's like empty that pocket, I hope there was like handfuls coming out. I wish there was handfuls coming out.
So I think they should have got a better shot. They should have got a better shot of the pockets getting drained.
Yeah, they cut it actually in the edit, but according to like the players who were actually there, it wasn't just that one pocket that was full of rice. It was like piles of rice pouring out of like everything that Rachel had.
That's amazing.
I love it. I love it.
So funny. It was innovative, and she should have been able to keep that damn rice. I am so sorry. I'm going to stake my claim there that we saw Rupert steal people's shoes. Okay.
Yes.
That was in 7?
Yeah. So
only one of the best seasons ever, but
Jeff used to enjoy these people that thought outside of the box, and Rachel did. And so I think, hey, she thought about it. It's only going to be able to happen once, because next season we're going to say something, or we're going to know that people are doing it, and we're not going to use rice, whatever the circumstance is. But I think the first time something like that happens, why not?
So
we literally saw someone help another person in an immunity challenge last year, but she can't take 3 pockets.
Don't get me going on that.
No. Let's get you going, because these are 2 way different situations.
Yeah.
The rice is a
right. One of them completely affected the end game, and the other one would have been 3 pocketfuls.
No, that's what I'm saying.
No. One of them was all within the challenge. This was for her to take the rice home and cook it when they got back to the tribe, to the camp. So she was taking this away from the field. All that happened with and last time with Kinsey happened while they're at the challenge. If she can eat that rice right there, if she can just stuff them grains in her mouth, oh, more power to her.
Okay,
so go ahead.
But there is precedent for taking like advantages from challenges. Like we've seen like Kelly Wentworth like steal the idol from like under the table. So why can't they get the advantage of food? Like taking things from challenges is part of the game.
Because that was that advantage was put there with the intention of being taken. The rice was not.
Yeah, but I'll one up Rye here. We've seen people steal beads, rope, twine, whatever, little things from around
the challenge. From the challenge.
Now, I feel like yes. Now, can I quote a specific season? No, I can't. But I would not like. My understanding is, people have stolen shit from the entire season. All of a sudden, they have a pocket full of everything. Now, whether that was just from their tribe flag or from their water bottle or
the campsite,
I understand there's a lot of stuff around the camp too. But still, it's production-based items. I don't see why that would be any different than in a challenge. It's a production item. It's a production item.
I'll tell you what the difference is.
Go ahead.
In the challenge. Things in the challenge.
I'll tell you why I think she wasn't allowed, and it's a much less entertaining and debatable option. I think it's production rice. I don't think it's edible, and I think that they have bags of rice sitting around that could have been sitting there for months. They might not be safe to eat. It might just literally be bags of moldy or plastic mixed sandy whatever, literally unhealthy rice. And I think Jeff would love to have the shot of someone stealing rice, going back to camp, bringing a pot of boiling water in the woods and cooking themselves a secret pot of rice. I think that'd be hilarious, except for he might know that maybe that's not safe to eat.
Said in the On Fire podcast today that they don't want them to have the food. Basically,
and that's fair, and I understand if they're trying to manipulate it.
Standards and practices.
That wasn't her rice to take.
Not her rice to take, but that don't put rice in the challenge then.
And they said they're going to change it. They said they're going to change it probably because
it's as easy as putting a bunch of dye on the rice. Get a bunch of just put some dye on the rice and make it
dye.
It's rice. The point of the rice is it soaks up water and it gets heavier. Yeah. You know what I mean? They can make it a bag full of flour, and you can just try to bring a bunch of flour back with you if you want. That's a mess. Rice doesn't make a big mess. It soaks up water. It gets heavy, and it's easy to carry. It's not dangerous if you get hit with it. There's a whole bunch of reasons you'd use rice, but my assumption was you got a bunch of bags of rice sitting out 3 weeks because they built those challenges. They've prepped everything for a while. These bags have been sitting there. There's probably inedible.
I do love the attempt though.
Oh, it's genius.
Props to the attempt.
Yeah. I want this woman on my screen every season. She is fantastic. And I love Rachel.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great. It was very fun moment to watch. I wish it would have worked out for her. And I think that most of the alumni on Twitter were like, let her keep the rice. All right. Final point that we're going to talk about. Too big for your britches. All right. So TK, after the challenge, they have lost, and Jeff comments to Tiana of like, hey, I see you've got that smile on your face. Like, what's going on? And she's like, yeah, it's just kind of like some, what do you do type of situation. I'm not smiling because I'm happy. This is awful. Hate that we have to go to tribal. And TK has himself a little moment, kind of like Andy. And he's like, you know what? Everybody should feel how I feel, and I'm a competitor, and you don't smile after you lose. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. What are you doing, TK?
I think the theme of this episode, sorry to cut you off there, Ryan, is wrong idea, or sorry, right idea, wrong execution. I think when you seen Teeny earlier, right idea, poor execution. When you see TK strategizing in the water, right idea, again, wrong execution. When you see somebody who just lost and they're jacked up and they're wanting to say, listen, we can't just be comfortable losing. We have to regroup and come back twice as motivated. So that way we set a new norm of winning. I don't want to get comfortable losing. I know nobody else here does. We're going to work harder next time as a team. But like, say something more positive, but saying basically bashing your tribe, it's the right message, but the wrong execution. And I think TK's entire episode is that.
Well, and I mean, TK comes from a very competitive background. You know, he works with professional athletes, but he is not in an environment with professional athletes. He's in an environment with people that maybe have never even been on a sports team before. And so for them, a loss, while devastating, because you never know, you could be you getting voted out at tribal council, you know, they're not necessarily going to have the same reaction as someone that was an elite athlete and that comes from a very, you know, the highest level of competition. And so it was, not everybody is going to react how you want them to react. And that's okay. In Survivor and in real life.
Yeah. I think about like the scene in season 45 where like Jake is crying and he's like, I'm sad, but I'm sad on Survivor. Mm-hmm. And like, you see like Tiana smiling, like she's sad to lose. She's not happy that she just lost, but it's Survivor. She knows that she's not going to win every single thing. Not every person on the beach is going to be able to make it to the end. So to have like your own ally after you just make this comment, kind of like downplay everything that you just said and just felt and just experienced, that would piss me off too. So I completely understand where Tiana is coming from in this situation.
Yeah.
TK's whole demeanor was that of someone that was living in his own world. He was as if we're playing my game instead of like we're playing a game together. And so his whole from the moment he takes the information in episode 1 on to him feeling like he's now the one that brought them the supplies, to him going and creating this alliance by not even having spoken to Tiana before, but deciding Tiana's going to be in it. He was done with Gabe. So it's going to be him, Tiana, and Kyle. Then going into the challenge and saying, I don't want anyone on my team that's cool with losing. There was never a time when TK seemed to be understanding that he was playing with other people. They weren't playing his game.
And even when he went to apologize, if you want to call it that.
What kind of an apology was that, right?
Again, right idea. Face the music. Go listen. You screwed up. You crossed the line.
In the moment,
go face the music and take your comeuppance and deal with it. And that's what the intent Kyle had, was like, listen, man, we got to smooth this out. We just got to go up there and apologize. You know, you kind of push some buttons. I'm just letting you know, as your close ally, you push some buttons. Go apologize. So his method of apology is to explain why he's right and why he said what he said, and to mansplain, just in case you didn't understand why I was telling you I didn't like your smile. It was because I'm competitive and I don't want to lose, and we shouldn't be happy with losing. And
he is saying this to a D1 athlete.
Tiana, yes, and before I walk away and I choose to end this conversation that's one-way communication, I just want to make sure we're cool, right? Like that. That's how we ended it. Was just
even worse, Robbie, because you're spot on. But even worse is that I did not want to offend anyone that was crying, and if that happened to be you, so you're the one I'm talking about. I didn't know, or smiling. I didn't know that was you. But like now that I know it's you, sorry, I guess. Like that was not who it was meant to be for. But whatever.
I was just speaking to the global thing.
The general, exactly. The general, the things that you are we good? Are we good?
Yeah.
Like, was that enough? Was that good enough for you?
Yeah.
And I really want to give Tiana props in this situation, because here she's been downplayed during the end of the challenge, and now she's being mansplained about why TK is right. And for her to keep her level head and say, yeah, TK, we're cool, and then to actually go and consider, okay, socially, TK pisses me off, but game-wise, I could still see him being good for my game. So for her to take this intense situation, going to the very first tribal for her, with somebody actively pissing her off and be able to keep a cool, level, rational head is super impressive.
Yeah, and when you watch TK, you know, like I said, go through this whole scenario and easily could have apologized, even if he didn't feel it 100%. You know, this whole scene reminded me. A very intelligent woman once said, "It's better to be in the game than to be right." Okay, and he was more focused on being right than being in the game, and that very intelligent person actually was watching the show beside me. So, you know, it's one of those things where, yeah, you know, he chose. It's more important for people to know why he's right, than for him to focus on remaining in the game.
I feel really bad for Kyle in this situation because Vance did not do anything wrong. He's like made his alliance, and he's like, okay, you're having a rough spot. We need to sue this Other for our game. He set them up for the apology. He did everything he could have. He did everything right, and then it just blew up. Like, Vance.
You know, as we're talking about it, I kind of think maybe this trio could have been similar to like what we saw last season with Q, Tiff, and Kinsey, where, you know, Q and Tiff would kind of go at each other of like, man, he is really pissing me off, but this is who I am going to work with. And Kinsey was kind of the peacemaker, kind of the same role that Kyle was, except that where Tiff put up with it for a while last season, you know, Tiana was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I don't want to have that turmoil.
Well, not even that. There's a viable option to get this dude up out of here right now.
Yeah.
And we've been hanging out we've been working together for a total of 3 days at this point.
Right.
So sure, let's get them on out of here.
Like, they're still practicing spelling each other's names. That's how short they've known each other.
Correct.
You know what I mean? They probably don't even know last names at this point, or at least they probably don't remember them, right? Introductions have happened a couple of days ago. That's it. But, you know, I hope that the Wounded Birds Alliance end up swapping Gabe with Kyle. I think that would be fantastic for me because he's my winner pick. But also he's a nice guy. And if you see how Kyle handles his alliance crumbling and makes the perfect play, and to walk up to someone as opinionated and as overbearing as TK, and to have the confidence, but also the I don't know, I guess it's like a kind charisma to say, you're screwing up. Don't hate the messenger. Go fix it. But to say it in a way where TK understands, believes, and goes and tries, that's not easy. And so I'm hoping Kyle can rebound from this.
So we see Gabe and Sue mostly kind of working this vote, where way earlier in the episode, we had seen where TK just rubbed Sue the wrong way by talking loudly while she was taking a nap. It's literally the smallest things. You never know what it's going to be. And so they're kind of working this vote of, hey, the three of us are together. No matter what, we are going to go to Rocks. And I love this. Like, from an entertainment standpoint, I'm like, I love that at the very first tribal council, these people were going to go to Rocks for each other. They were.
I don't think so.
I don't think Caroline was going to do it.
Do you think she would have flipped?
I think she would have assessed it. I can't say for sure she would flip. If she thought the numbers were coming her way, she would have stayed. But if she didn't think the numbers, the way she did that confessional, where it was like, yeah, so basically apparently we're willing to go to Rocks. Sue was like fuck this, I'm in. Like, burn it down, scorched earth. I don't care. Like, you know, that's it. Burn every bridge. I'm going forward. Whereas Caroline was kind of like, yeah, like we're doing this. Go team.
Yeah. And I agree with, like, that was her mentality, but at the same time, Sue is her number one ally. That's her closest connection, and this is her first vote. You don't want to be the person who goes into the first vote and then turns on your number one ally publicly in front of anybody. So there's more stakes in going to Rocks rather than just going home, because one, you could lose your close ally, but two, even if you do survive by choosing to not go to Rocks, then you're basically blowing up your spot and your credibility in the game.
Yeah, you're at the bottom.
Yeah, that's a solid argument. I think it depends on, okay, are you willing to have a shittier position in the game but be in the game, or risk having a better position in the game but risk not being there? You know what I mean? Like, there's that debate.
But I can recover. I can't recover my position if I'm not in the game.
Right. I'm of the mindset where it's like, I don't care if I'd have to burn I wouldn't choose to if I could avoid it. But if there's a chance that I'm going home, I'm sorry, but no. Like, I would rather wake up on the beach and have to use my words to survive than to be doing a confessional afterwards, being like, well, I'm glad I was loyal pre-jury.
Hanging out with old John Lovett at Ponderosa.
No, but right, you're 100% right. Like, there's a huge risk. And I could see, honestly, there's probably 70% of people would agree. Like, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of logic there. I just would rather be fucked, but in the game.
Yeah. I think it would be a hard situation for like a Caroline or a Tiana. Those were the two that were in the position of mainly having, theoretically to have made that decision. But Gabe capitalizes on, hey, you know what? Whenever TK was talking at the challenge, I noticed Tiana rolling her eyes at him, and there's a vulnerability here. And I think that I can strike. And I think that we can get Tiana to vote TK. And so he does a little bit of work with her, and Sue does a lot of work with her. Thoughts?
I think this is brilliant part on how Sue and Caroline do this, because they don't go up to Tiana and say, hey, join our 4. They say, hey, bros, not great. We need to make a girls alliance. And by doing that, they're making Tiana think that she is 3, not number 4.
Right.
Because if Tiana's saying, hey, sure, I'll be 4th, then that's not great. That doesn't benefit her. It's better to be in a closer trio and try to bring somebody else.
Hold on. I disagree. Because she was willing to be 4 with TK. But then the moment you get them saying, let's be 3 and Gabe's with us, oh, this is where the 4 is? My bad. I'm going to go with this over here. I just wanted to be in a group of 4 over a group of 2 or 3. Because that's the only reason she, like you said a minute ago, right? She said, I may not like TK personally, but we're a group of 4. So therefore, this is what I'm doing.
So I disagree because I agree with you. So like, I agree with the logic, but you saw her see, like, originally she was like, ooh, bros alliance, I don't want to be the 4th. But when they say, okay, you can be 3, she's like, okay, I'm more comfortable in that position. So when Sue and Caroline are like, hey, 3, Gabe is 4, they're like, okay, I'm not at the bottom. I'm more comfortable with that. And even then she was still torn. So it's not necessarily the idea of, yes, I want to just be in a 4. Yes, she does, but she wants to be in a better position out of that 4.
Yeah. So Robbie, you were talking about, and this is what I wanted to circle back on, is do we think, was this the right move for Tiana? Because we do know theoretically she does appear to be 4th, that in the Wounded Birds Alliance, she's at the bottom. You've got Gabe and the 2 women. So did she make the right decision? And as a whole, did those 4 make the right decision voting off, obviously, their strength? I think if you're willing to ride it out with these people, then it was definitely the right decision for Gabe, Sue, and Caroline. I don't think it was the right decision for Tiana.
I think it depends on what you're willing to gamble. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
I don't think Tiana had a choice. When you look up, and I'm like we were already talking about, I'm not going to rocks for this dude. Like, we're only working together because he has the numbers. But then he doesn't have the numbers. So I don't really plan on working with him. I would have liked to keep the tribe strength. Like, that would have been nice to do. But no, I'm not a fan of this dude to begin with. But if we have the numbers strategically, let's go. Oh, numbers aren't there. I don't want to work with you anyway. So this is a perfectly fine situation then for me.
Peace and blessings.
Yeah.
Robbie, what you ruminating on?
No, right. You go. You're good.
So I don't think this move necessarily, I don't think it's going to work out for Tiana because she is fourth place, and her closest connection is Kyle, who she's just blindsided and sort of hurting that connection. So she's putting herself in an awkward position where she's like working with these people who maybe she doesn't really want to work with, and then her closest connection is the only person who she hasn't voted with. So I think it puts her in sort of a rough spot moving forward. But I'm not necessarily sure she sees it that way because, again, she's being proposed. Oh, 3-person girl alliance. Gabe is also here. He's sketchy, searching for medals.
I think also we're missing the fact that Gabe is sketchy, and they don't really like Gabe. Caroline, Caroline they could easily go to Caroline, the two of them, and say, so we voted out TK. TK wanted to take out Sue. Obviously, that's the reason we voted Sue. But we don't want to work with TK either. I see you guys are working with Gabe. And then Caroline's like, oh, I don't like that dude either. But he has an idol. Oh, he has an idol. What if we send him home with that idol in his pocket? Oh, no, that's right. My bad. He doesn't have an idol anymore. Yeah, he played the idol in this last thing. Let's send his ass home now. Because we think this dude's sketch anyway.
Yeah, I'm of two minds on this one. I think staying in the game is your top priority every day. Survive as long as you can. And if you're the last to survive, you win. Okay, I get it. But there's also a certain amount of value in causing chaos that you're not the target of. And if somehow, let's say Sue did go home, then you're going to have Gabe and TK going at it because Gabe would have flipped. Let's say we did tie rocks and Caroline flipped or whatever madness would have happened. We don't know. Okay. But if Tiana didn't flip and she actually voted with Kyle and TK, then you would have had at worst 3-3 tie, right? You out Gabe as being a snake. You show loyalty to Kyle and TK. Even if you have to flip at that point, you can even look at Kyle like, listen, I tried. I'm still with you. Now I'm flipping. Like you could have caused so much more chaos and had other people have targets on their back and look more sus and save Sue by flipping. Like I think going to Sue wasn't hey, I'm joining an alliance and this is great. It's organic. We're going to work together. Who else was Sue going to ask for the fourth vote? Right? She's not going to ask TK and she's not going to ask Kyle. Right? Because that's the bros alliance, even though you've got a Gabe in the middle of it somehow. Right? Yeah. I mean, if you want to optimize it while we sit on the couch, I think going to rocks and flipping and doing it in a way that you're like, listen, let's do it. And we'll burn an idol or we'll burn a whatever. I mean, that's great. But I don't know. I think just giving up, voting out your strongest person, not getting any real social equity out of it because they had no one else to go to anyway, but you, I don't know. I think it could have been handled a little bit better, but again, she survived. So it's better.
We're in tribes of six. We're in tribes of six here, Robbie. So if I'm going to make the move anyway, why vote with TK and then go to rocks? Especially if I'm thinking Gabe's sketchy anyway. Like, and we don't know, and we obviously don't see the whole thing. But what if they said we have the numbers Gabe's with us? If Gabe is with you,
yeah,
it makes no because Tiana's not thinking at no point and I say that part because at no point when we saw them having the conversations, did we have Sue and Caroline pitching going to rocks to Tiana and then that being worth it? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so I would assume that they said, we have the numbers, we're going to be fine with this decision. So if you have the numbers, and I'm only working with TK because of the numbers, I don't like him. If it was Kyle, if they were talking about voting out Kyle, I think that we get a completely different situation in terms of the plan. Maybe she doesn't flip at all. Maybe she goes to rocks for him.
Yeah.
But if I already know I'm not going to rocks for this dude, why even find out and then let them really know that I was willing to vote out soon?
Well, and I think what typically happens here, Kevin, in the most recent seasons, is they would vote Gabe out. They would be like, this guy is playing both sides. Nobody can trust him. He's got power. He's not going to see it coming. And I think Gabe even knows that's the right play. That's why he plays his idol, because he's like, listen, if I was them, I'd be turning on me because I'm playing them right now and they all see it.
So
the right play is me.
Do you think that is why he played his idol? Because I assume he played his idol to protect himself from the rock draw.
I assume he played his idol because 4 people would.
That could easily be it. I'm just saying that how hard would it have been for Tiana to go to TK and be like, and cause drama, TK is a strength person. I look at this blue tribe now, preseason, when we did the assessment, I thought the blue tribe was going to annihilate these challenges. You take TK out, a huge portion of early Survivor is physical in all the challenges. They're not balanced to be like equally mental. Yeah, there's mental stuff. But if you get out there and you crush it physically, you see Saul in episode 1 just basically carrying his tribe through those challenges. It's like, yeah, like a huge part of it's physical. Let's vote out our most physical. No. Vote out your most intellectual threatening person if they're not on your side. You can't trust Gabe. He should have been the target. I think that's why you played it. But again, I'm not watching everything else that's in the background too.
I think he played it because when I'm sitting here looking at Survivor 46, and I watched at this point 3 or 4 people go home with an idol in their pocket before I went out there, I'm not going to go home with an idol in my pocket. Especially when, like you said, Robbie, a minute ago, it probably makes the most. We talked about how everyone's talking about how I was running around out here. And I know 2 people know I have this idol that may try to blindside me tonight. I don't know what's about to happen.
Wasn't it Gabe that dropped it off the rock face?
Yeah.
Everybody heard.
And
they all knew he had it, right?
You know, he kind of is like, hey, you know, I'm on Survivor. Like, I'm having the adventure of a lifetime. Like, of course I'm going to do all of these fun things. You know, kind of like where, you know, Teeny and Rum both handled the bad situation as well as they could. I kind of think his response was pretty good too, of like, it's Survivor. I'm having fun out here. And, you know, I think that went over as well as it could have, as opposed to being like, I'm schemy and I'm, you know, kind of a villainous here. And so I don't know. I just assumed he played it on himself, A, because people knew he had the idol, and then B, also, if Tiana does not flip and we go to rocks, I'm not drawing rocks. I convinced my 2 closest allies to go to rocks, but I'm not going to.
So I have a story that I would like to tell you guys. So last night, I just so happened to be chilling at a campfire with Gabe, Teeny, and Saul. And I asked Gabe, why did you play your idol?
Oh,
were you just trying to avoid the rock? Was it just so you could flush it so you could get the target off your back? And he said, yes. And I'm going to tell you a story. So I was walking by the shelter and TK was talking to Sue. And everybody knows that TK is pitching Sue to me. I told Sue that he's pitching Sue to me. So Sue knows that he's pitching out her name. But he has to tell Sue something. TK has to tell something to Sue. So what TK proposes to Sue is, hey, how about we know that Gabe has an idol. So how about we split votes on Gabe and Caroline? And he's telling this to Sue. So Gabe is like hearing this. He's like right next to the shelter. And he's like, well, people are clearly targeting me because I have an idol. I don't want to risk any chance. I just watched 46. I'm going to play it, keep myself safe.
Yeah.
So you just said, Ryan, that it was a little bit of everything we just said.
Yeah,
it was a bit of an amuse-bouche. It was a little buffet of all the things we said and reasons why to do it.
Yeah, but with the fun story where TK was like, hey, Sue, you know I'm voting for you, but idea, what if you vote for your 2 closest allies instead?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Real believable too, right? Like, yeah.
I love that. All right, so we see TK go out on a blind side. He's blindsided, but even more taken aback is Sweet Kyle. No. That's all he says, y'all. I mean, just completely blindsided by this vote. How do y'all think Kyle is going to be able to navigate the game going forward? Because I don't feel like this was necessarily a move against Kyle, but definitely a move against TK.
Untouched.
Kyle's untouched. He's fine. He's going to go in there. Tiana's going to go give him a hug, apologize for what happened. Caroline's going to tell him it's fine. And then they're going to decide to split out Gabe. Like, that's what's going to happen.
I'm hoping he switches with Gabe. I'm hoping they swap spots because I think they're going to trust Kyle more than they'll trust Gabe.
Yeah.
And he's a vote, and why not?
I'm not so sure about that because Caroline and Sue have both been working with Gabe this round, and they've seen Gabe be loyal to them. So, like, Caroline maybe more so on the fence, but Sue is going to be like, Gabe's our guy. We got him.
I think they
she's
still
going to go to her
sketchy,
number 1 ally, Caroline. Yeah,
I think they really think sketchy.
Yeah, but if somebody is sketchy for you, that's an asset. And you could also see him targeting. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Right, I know you from playing online games. Right, our first game, you were sketchy for Rye only. Did it benefit other people? Yeah, if it benefited Rye, but eventually Rye had to turn on those people because it had to be good for Rye. It's the same thing here. Gabe is not sketchy. He's sketchy for me today, but maybe not tomorrow. That dude gotta go.
There's something that I like to live by, and it is when someone shows. I said this before, but when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Believe them.
Believe them the first time. Don't look for after they show you who they are. Start looking for reasons why they're who you want them to be, and start building this picture of who you want them to be. Hey, well, that piece of information agrees with this. Maybe they are a good person or whatever, or strategic ally, whatever. Gabe is showing who he is. He's turning on one group of people who trust him to help another group of people who benefit him. That's who he is. Now, if he does something beyond that, maybe next episode, we get more information or something, I'll change my opinion because new information gives a new opinion. But
correct.
I wouldn't jump to trusting him because he voted once, because it also kept him here. Right.
Correct.
Now the idol obviously helped him, but
there's also more to the game than just trusting whether or not someone will be loyal to you. It's trusting whether or not someone will be a bigger target than you future on. Like if people are seeing Gage as second now.
I'm with Ryan here. Like, I do not see the scenario where they do an old swap-a-roo with Kyle. If anything, I think this is where Tiana made a mistake. And I think if this group goes back to tribal, that we could see Tiana being the person that is voted off as opposed to Kyle. You have his strength and his size, and then he has such a good, easygoing demeanor. And this is where I more worry about Tiana being on the outside as opposed to Gabe, especially like from Sue's aspect. Like, Gabe put in work to keep Sue there. And Gabe, y'all say, hey, tell everybody about your idol. It builds trust. Okay. Well, Gabe has done that. So, you're saying trust, but what
Gabe built.
Let me finish my thought. Thank you. Okay. So if Gabe has shown you who he is, okay, Gabe went to battle for us. So
not for us. That's why I'm jumping in here. For Sue. I don't think that there's going to be a whole swap-a-roo. I'm with that.
Ally, if I am Caroline, Sue being in the game is good for me. So why don't we continue to work with a person that is good with us and has burned Kyle? We're not going to do an old switcheroo and swap Kyle out for
I don't think there's a switcheroo happening here.
And we've blindsided.
I don't think there's a switcheroo here. That's what I'm saying. I think that Caroline trusts Sue, and I think she trusts Tiana. And she does not trust Gabe, and we don't know any conversations she's had with Kyle. She might have had conversations with Kyle, but we heard her say, I don't trust Gabe. She said that. So I don't think it's a switcheroo at all. I think that Gabe is looking out for Sue here, but Caroline might be like, hey, Tiana, you said this Kyle guy's trustworthy. Let's see if we can get Gabe with Kyle.
I disagree.
We're going to shit on Gabe for being sketchy and flipping, but it's going to be okay for Caroline to get rid of Gabe.
No, the sketchiness is not the flipping. No, the sketchiness is not the flipping. The sketchiness is him running through the jungle. That's the sketchiness.
Okay, but y'all just said everybody in the new era does this. You literally said it. Rewind the tape.
They said at Tribal he was sketchy for running through the jungle. Kevin's not saying that.
They said preseason, didn't they?
They said preseason. This dude is not following nobody. Yes, they said
Gabe and Sue loved each other preseason. Who cares about what happened at Ponderosa before we got out here?
Well, while we were out here,
we're making assumptions about Caroline when homegirls had two.
I'm going by what Caroline said. Okay, I'm using her words.
But when we look at her words, she said, I don't trust him yet. When that was before he showed her the idol. And then he showed it to her, then he voted with her. That's building trust. In addition,
and he's the one that did the work of, hey, I saw Tiana having these reactions towards TK. This is where we can do it. And I'm willing to go to rocks with you women. Like, everything Gabe has shown them to this point has been, I am with you two. This is us.
And adding on to that, if you're like Sue and Carolyn and you're going to like a swap or a merge, who do you think is going to be more likely to get voted out of your alliance? They're going to vote out Gabe before they vote out Caroline or Sue. So I would feel comfortable going with Gabe farther than that because one, he's proven that he's voted with me and been loyal this round.
Right, and this is day 4. Like, I don't need to get rid of Gabe tomorrow.
I am literally
a later problem.
I'm literally only speaking on the words that were said on the show. Caroline said that they found him sketchy at tribal council. They talked about people running through the woods. They said there's only one person we know that's doing that, and then Jeff said, "Oh, everybody knows," and they all said Gabe. Like that. Those are the things that happened. He said, "I want to get my Tarzan on." Yada yada yada. I'm just going by you two are jumping down my throat. I'm just going by what they said on the show.
Difference in how Gabe's being received though, and how Rome is being received.
Oh yeah. No, we're not talking about Rome. Rome's not in this conversation. I'm talking about Kyle versus Gabe in this situation. So I can see Caroline, and I at no point have I said Sue. I didn't say it's switcheroo. I didn't say none of that stuff because I think Sue is with Gabe for sure. When Gabe was looking for the idol, he had Sue be the lookout. I think Sue is with Gabe for sure. I think Caroline, based on what she said on the show, could look Tiana's way with Kyle. That's the only reason, based on what she said on the show.
I hear what you're saying, but I guess I want to say one thing. I guess my fundamental difference of opinion here would be who's a bigger threat or a meat shield, whatever you want to call it, and what's the new norm. I think the new norm is catching the people who are playing too hard too early and getting them out. I think that's kind of always happened, I guess, not new, but catching people who play too hard too early. They usually stand out, running around, finding idols, joining one group, flipping to another group, pitting people against each other. Like that's playing pretty hard really early. I think that usually stands out, where I would rather go with a physical threat if you want a meat shield than an intellectual threat, because an intellectual threat is harder to convince other people of, where a physical threat is just there. Everyone can see it.
Visible.
And if you're looking for a meat shield, I'd bring a TK. I wouldn't bring an intellectual threat that Gabe is claiming to be. I haven't seen enough, but
okay, but Gabe is someone you can work with. TK is someone who wanted you to work for them. I can see that argument applying for like Tiana, a D1 athlete, and then Kyle, who is also ripped. Like, I'm not worried about this tribe's athleticism with TK going. Like, yes, he was athletic, but they still got like 2 comp beasts.
Yeah, I guess I would see, again, different play styles, and I respect different play styles. I would use somebody like TK and pretend to be their lackey for a few days. Be a Kyle, right? TK's taking all the attention. That's fine. And it gets you further in the game and you get closer to Mergatory. And now it's a perfect time. But right away, basically guaranteeing that you're going to be going back to tribal pre-merge by taking out your biggest physical, asset. That's a huge risky play, and hoping that the people who you trust are going to still survive more votes and more votes and more votes.
So, do we see them at tribal council again next week?
33% chance.
Ding. Agreed. I don't know. I mean, I think outside of
I don't think so.
I think they're still fairly even with the yellow tribe, and so I think it's probably a toss-up. I think red ends up being the tribe that never goes to tribal council.
Correct.
I like to look at it at like vote by vote and see which tribes are getting stronger for challenges and which tribes are getting weaker. I think the yellow tribe was weaker going in initially in the season. They voted out one of their weakest, if not their weakest challenge competitor in John, getting stronger in challenges. The red tribe is a beast. You've got Saul and a bunch of other athletic people there. I think they're going to do great, and they're intelligent, so they're just doing well in general. And the blue tribe voted out one of their stronger challenges, so it's hard to say that they're going to have a better chance to win than they did this episode. I don't see how they'd have a better chance to win a challenge. So I mean, yeah, they're more likely than they were today or this episode.
Yeah,
I don't think so, because I don't have a lot of faith in yellow's overall strength.
Cohesiveness,
strength or cohesiveness.
Yeah.
So that's just me personally. So I think yellow's more likely to go.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I think that of the 3, I still see yellow being the most likely to land back in a tribal council. because you do have like Kyle that's strong, Tiana is strong. I'm sorry, but Sue is strong for a 55-year-old woman or however old she said she is. I mean, she is ripped. And so
Gabe's not weak either.
Yeah.
Caroline's the suspect one to me.
Yeah, but I think she's smart. So, I think that they can be okay without TK. It's obviously going to be a big thing.
Whereas I don't think Annika's that strong. I don't know. I don't think Rachel's that
Rachel
strong.
doesn't seem that strong. Yeah. Sierra doesn't seem that strong.
Hey, don't bash Rachel, all right? She is
I love Rachel.
Gold right now.
And these challenges, they spend like 10 minutes on the physical part and then like 3 hours in the puzzle. So you don't necessarily have to be the strongest physical tribe to win these challenges. It all depends on what the challenge is. Like, I think we're overhyping Red's ability over here. Like, as much as I'm rooting for Teeny, I think there could be some things that they're not going to be as good at.
Right. We haven't seen Red on TV like hardly at all. So that's why I don't think that they go.
I mean, who's the weakest, I guess, if you want, we're not going physical, I guess, but I mean, who would be the weakest on Red?
Oh, Teeny.
Probably Teeny.
I love Teeny, but Teeny is the challenge least. They're challenge beasts and challenge leasts, and Teeny.
And who would you prefer to have, Annika or Teeny?
Like on the show?
No, as for a challenge. I'd still pick Teeny, right? So it's like their weakest is better than other tribes' weakest.
Well, also Teeny gets it out the next challenge.
Fair.
That's a good point.
Fair. Yeah.
Whereas those 5 are going for both tribes. That's the
right. You know what? As much as I don't like your opinion because it counters my physical threat argument perfectly, it's extremely valid. Yeah. When you spend that much time on a puzzle compared to the physical challenge, sure. I mean, we do see some seasons where people just crush a puzzle in 30 seconds, and I'm exaggerating, but sometimes not by much. But I guess, it depends how much weight we want to put on showing up exhausted. And there's a lot of value in showing up first and not having the anxiety of we're fucked all the way through the challenge. Do you know what I mean? So showing up first and being like, yes, we've got this, and having the confidence and crushing a puzzle is a hell of a lot easier, I think, than showing up in third, thinking I got to catch up, I got to go faster, and then just overthinking it and fucking up. But you're right. I mean, if it's 3 hours, fuck. I mean, Jesus. Yeah.
All right. So any final thoughts about episode 2?
High profile guest in the comments.
What up, everyone? Says Rome the host.
Hey.
Hello, Rome. Yeah, I thought it was a fun episode. It's very interesting, things set up for the next episode 3. Did y'all catch Annika's comment of what she says to Sam and Sierra? This also kind of, sets off.
Are you dating or what? Yes. Something like that?
Yeah, the dating comment. I was like, okay, I can.
Why would you say that out loud?
I can see Yellow possibly being back at Tribal. Oh, and I did want to say that because of scoring the episodes for our draft, one of the things that scores points is the episode title. And the episode title was Sue saying this will be an epic girl boss move. And so before the challenge was halfway over, I was like, oh, Blue's losing and TK's going to get voted out. So, they had shown the clip of TK getting under her skin, and I was like, they blew it. They blew it with this episode title. Because
I've never looked at the episode title.
40 minutes. Well, I do. So 40 minutes left in the episode. I was like, oh, this sucks. This is what's going to happen.
They're just baiting you now. And next episode is going to be somebody who stays.
Most of the time, the episode titles are like, one glorious episode was episode 1 for what John Lovett said.
Yeah.
Most of them, you're like, okay, this doesn't mean anything. But the epic girl boss move, I was like, oh, we know what this is.
Okay, but sometimes they have like funny quotes out of the titles, and then it goes horribly wrong for that person. So
episode several or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
right. To keep picking
that
joke, but
that concludes what we have for episode 2. We will be back next Thursday to talk about episode 3 and what happens. Does our boy Rome end up going to tribal council and plopping out that idol that he has? Good for one tribal council, to be determined. Does the blue tribe bounce back, or is the yellow tribe just going to do what yellow tribes do? We will see. And then Monday, Kevin and the 5 p.m.ers will be there to talk about the double eviction episode on Big Brother as we come into our final 5 and in the home stretch of this Big Brother season. It's been a really, really fun one. I'm excited to hear what y'all have to say about it, even though it was heartbreaking for me personally. But it's been a fun season. I'm excited to see how this end game plays out. And make sure that you give us a like, drop a comment, and let us know your thoughts on the episode. And, did they make the right decision voting out their strength? Tell us your thoughts. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.